Welcome to another deep dive. You guys sent in a ton of material on Eldoria character profiles, theories, even personal stories, and I have to say I'm pretty stoked to dig into this world with you. Today, we're diving deep into magic, prophecy, and some seriously interesting characters. And to help us navigate this deep dive, we have an expert in fantastical worlds and mythology.
Thanks. I'm excited to unpack these sources, especially how Eldoria blends fantasy and real-world science, like using quantum mechanics and entropy to explain magic and prophecy. That's pretty wild.
Okay, so let's unpack it. The theory of magic describes Eldoria as this vibrant ecosystem where magic is literally woven into existence. Humans stumbled through a wormhole 10,000 years ago and encountered plants that could talk and defend themselves, almost like a collective consciousness, not your average houseplant.
Right. Think about the bloodroot plant. It's a predator waiting to trap prey and can actually signal to nearby venomous dart flowers to warn them of danger. That level of sentience in plants really makes you think about consciousness and connection in a different way.
It really does. And imagine walking into a world where nature is that engaged with you. What's also interesting is that humans in Eldoria don't have innate magical abilities. They developed magitech to harness Eldoria's energy, especially zeta particles. Pretty resourceful, right?
Yeah, they found a workaround. Zeta particles are pretty cool. They're like tiny batteries emanating from Eldoria's sun and fueling all the magic. Professor Eldrin, the author of The Theory of Magic, believes that understanding these particles at a quantum level allows for some pretty amazing manipulation of magical energy.
Which leads to things like the phase weaver, this device that allows humans to phase through solid objects,
Yeah.
like something out of a sci-fi movie, but with magic. Makes you wonder about human potential in a world where magic is a given.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the ethereal blue flame, which pops up a lot in the material. It's clearly more than just a cool visual.
Right. What's the deal with this flame?
Kellyanne Eldrin's thesis, the ethereal blue flame, a quantum nexus of consciousness and magical energetics, gets deep into this. The flame is actually a nexus of consciousness and quantum energy made up of these particles called lumina quanta. And get this, these particles can interact with human consciousness and the nervous system, leading to some truly wild possibilities.
Wait, are you saying that our minds can influence this flame?
That's what the research suggests: healing, long-distance communication, even maybe tapping into the quantum vacuum for energy. All of these are on the table when the brain interacts with lumina quanta.
That's incredible. But if our minds can have that much power, there must be some ethical concerns, right?
Definitely. The potential for misuse is huge. Professor Eldrin himself voices this concern in The Theory of Magic, particularly about his daughter, Kellyanne, and her connection to the ethereal blue flame. Using this power responsibly is crucial.
Okay, so we have sentient plants, humans hacking magic with tech, and a mind-controlled flame. What else is Eldoria hiding?
Oh, there's more. Prophecy is another big theme in these sources. The source, the illusion of linear time and the nature of prophecy, challenges how we think about time itself.
Okay, I'm listening.
This source gets into ideas like entropy and relativity, suggesting that our linear view of time, past, present, future, is an illusion. It proposes now moments, where everything, past, present, and future, exists all at once. It's like a cosmic tapestry, everything woven together in this now, and that's where prophecy fits in. It's not predicting the future, it's glimpsing into this cosmic now.
So instead of seeing what will happen, you're seeing what is happening, just in a different part of this massive tapestry of time. That's trippy.
Right. Events we see as future are actually happening now, just not from our limited linear perspective. This source even uses historical examples like biblical prophecies or things in Revelation, suggesting they weren't predictions, but glimpses into this now.
Mind blown. But wouldn't it be super hard to interpret those glimpses? Our brains are so used to thinking linearly.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes the need for interpretation and context when dealing with prophecy. Like trying to grasp a four-dimensional object from our three-dimensional viewpoint. We get bits and pieces, but the whole picture is elusive.
Okay, so we've got a magical ecosystem, humans wielding quantum magic, and a new view of time and prophecy. What about the folks living in this world? Tell me about the characters.
One character that really jumps out is Preacher. His journey is especially fascinating, this mix of magic and human experience.
Right. The preacher character profile describes him as a reformed biker, an ex-con who found Christianity in prison and gets summoned to Eldoria to bring peace to a war-torn land. That's one heck of a resume.
Right. His earthly past and his new magical abilities in Eldoria shape his journey from wanderer to a king. It's that classic redemption story, but with quantum magic and prophecy mixed in.
So it's not just some random biker dude who stumbled into power. It was this internal shift, finding purpose in Christianity, that becomes his guiding force, that gives him the moral compass, this sense of justice, and all those things you need when you're dealing with a world full of conflict and otherworldly powers.
Exactly. And there's this contrast, too, in how he's described tough-looking, long black hair, weathered face, biker gear, but his eyes show a depth of understanding and compassion. Like his outside reflects his past, and his gaze hints at the change within.
He embodies that duality of Eldoria itself, the rugged magic, alongside that deeper sense of consciousness. And speaking of connections, let's not forget he becomes a celestial being, imbued with the ethereal blue flame, thanks to his 9 wives. 9 wives talk about a family dynamic.
That detail comes from the ethereal blue flame source. It seems Preacher shares this power with each of his wives, solidifying their bond and transforming them together.
So it's not just romantic love, it's a mystical power transfer through this unique bond. What can you tell us about some of these wives?
We have profiles for Iris and Seraphina, two of his most influential wives.
Perfect. Let's start with Iris.
Okay, so the an American biker in Another World Iris character profile describes her as a fox demi-human, Preacher's first wife, and a skilled healer and strategist who's deeply involved in Eldoria's politics.
She's got brains and power. I'm already liking her. Tell me about her backstory.
Her story is wild. She's the daughter of a kidnapped princess and a human noble, forced into servitude, but rose through the ranks by demonstrating her magical abilities. Talk about resilience. It probably gives her a unique view on Eldoria's power dynamics.
She's not just accepting the way things are, she's working to change them. I like that. What about Seraphina? Her profile mentions she's the Empress of the Asliarian Empire. That sounds powerful.
Oh, she is. An American biker in Another World Seraphina character profile tells us she's a warrior, a compassionate leader dedicated to peace and justice. She became Empress and isn't afraid to challenge the status quo.
So we've got Iris, strategic healer with a powerful past, and Seraphina, warrior Empress fighting for justice. How did these two powerhouse women end up with Preacher? He seems more at home on a Harley than ruling a kingdom.
Their relationships with Preacher are definitely multifaceted. Iris actually orchestrated their meeting to forge an alliance between humans and demi-humans, a strategic move that blossomed into something more.
So their love story is part political alliance, part genuine connection. I dig it.
Exactly. And with Seraphina, it's similar power and affection mixed together. She was skeptical of Preacher at first, saw him as just another outsider. But after he dusted her in combat, she developed a grudging respect, which grew into love.
That classic opposites attract vibe, maybe a bit of, he's the only one who can keep up with me. I can see those personalities clashing, but also working together. But with 9 wives, there's got to be drama.
Oh, absolutely. And how those relationships and their shared power as celestial beings play out in Eldoria's story is a question we'll keep exploring.
This is wild. We've barely scratched the surface of Eldoria, and it's already full of wonder and intrigue.
It really is. This world is bursting with possibilities, and Preacher's journey as a celestial being is just beginning.
So Preacher's wives are definitely key players here. Not just love interests, but powerful figures in their own right, becoming celestial beings with him, working together to shape Eldoria. I'm really curious about how that whole dynamic works.
Well, it's interesting how their transformations are tied to their relationships with Preacher. Like with Iris, the ethereal blue flame explains that through this Beast Kingdom mating ritual with Preacher, she not only boosts her own magic, but also becomes a celestial being. It's like their love literally transforms them.
Romantic and powerful. Does Seraphina go through something similar? She comes from such a different world, politically and culturally.
She does. Marrying Preacher, she inherits the ethereal blue flame, enhancing her existing magical abilities and making her a celestial being. It seems this power transfer is connected to a deep, soul-binding connection with Preacher, aligning their destinies. So while the rituals might be different, this idea of shared power through love and commitment seems pretty consistent in Preacher's relationships.
So it's not just a personal thing. Their love has cosmic implications. It's literally shaping the balance of power in Eldoria.
And speaking of shaping things, Seraphina's profile mentions some radical reforms she made as Empress. She's not just sitting on the throne.
Not at all. She abolished slavery, overthrew the old ruling class, and established a parliamentary system. A complete overhaul of the Asliarian Empire, moving towards a more just and equitable society.
Those are huge changes. It takes serious guts to dismantle a system like that, especially when you're at the top.
It speaks to her strong moral compass and her vision for her people. But how did she manage to pull it off? There must have been pushback from those who benefited from the old system. You don't just upend an empire without making some enemies along the way.
Exactly. Her profile suggests that her alliance with Preacher and their combined power as celestial beings probably helped her overcome those obstacles.
It makes sense. Being able to control the elements, teleport, and all that probably gives you some leverage in negotiations. It also shows the importance of collaboration, even in a world of magic.
Absolutely. Seraphina and Iris, along with Preacher's other wives, work together to promote peace and harmony across Eldoria. It's a reminder that even with all this magic, human connection and collective action can really make a difference.
So it's not just individual power, it's how that power is used to help others and create a better world. And that circles back to prophecy and destiny. If events are already set in this cosmic now, is free will just an illusion? Are they just playing out their roles?
The illusion of linear time source brings up this dilemma, suggesting that free will and a predetermined future aren't necessarily opposites. Maybe our choices, made within this now, create ripples that affect the tapestry of time. Imagine it as a constantly evolving play where the actors can improvise, but within certain boundaries.
That's an interesting way to look at it. It's not that our choices are meaningless, it's that they have a bigger impact than we realize.
Exactly. We might not change a single fixed timeline, but contribute to the cosmic now as it evolves.
It makes you think twice about every decision. If our choices have the potential to create ripples across all of time, that's a heavy responsibility.
It is. Maybe by understanding how time is interconnected and the potential consequences of our actions, we can make better, more meaningful choices.
I like that a message of hope and empowerment. Even in a world like Eldoria, our choices matter. Now, let's dig into Preacher's journey a bit more. His profile points out a turning point, his transformation in prison. It's easy to say he found Christianity and changed, but how did that impact him psychologically? How does it show in his actions and leadership?
That's a great question. It's not just a new belief system, it's an internal shift. For Preacher, finding comfort and purpose in Christianity seems to have given him deep empathy and compassion. He's not just using power, he's using it to protect the vulnerable.
He's not just a tough biker. He wants to help and heal, not the first thing that comes to mind with reformed biker.
Right. His profile describes this incident where he was testing his powers and accidentally made an affinity orb explode, almost killed him. It shows that even with good intentions, power can be dangerous.
It underscores the need for self-control and responsibility, especially with abilities that can reshape reality.
For sure. And that leads us to another interesting aspect of Preacher, his 9 wives.
Okay, this is the part I'm most curious about. How does this multiple wives thing work in Eldoria? Is it a power move or is there genuine love? It's so different from what we're used to.
It is, but in Eldoria, it seems to be accepted, at least in some circles. For Preacher, it's not just personal. It was a strategic move, orchestrated by Iris to build alliances and power.
Like a political marriage, but times 9. Each wife bringing something unique to the table, strengthening Preacher's position. Like a superhero team, but instead of fighting villains, they're reshaping society.
Exactly, and it's not just brute force. Iris is a healer and strategist. Seraphina is compassionate and wants justice. They bring balance and wisdom, tempering Preacher's power with a more nuanced leadership style.
It's a true partnership, each wife shaping Eldoria's destiny. But there has to be more than politics, right? These are people with emotions and desires.
Of course, the sources hint at those complexities. Seraphina's profile mentions she initially thought Preacher was not much of a hero, but after their first mock battle, her view changed. She admired his strength, and that grew into love.
So they challenge and inspire each other. And don't forget, they all share this connection through the ethereal blue flame. They're not just wives, they're celestial beings, linked by a power beyond the physical.
It's a strong symbol of unity and purpose. Even in a world full of differences, there's potential for connection and collaboration.
This is amazing. We've only just started exploring Eldoria, and it's already so complex and intriguing. And we haven't even talked about Preacher's kids.
Oh, right. We do know a little about his children. From the ethereal blue flame, we know Preacher and Iris have a daughter, Aurora.
Tell me about Aurora. What's she like?
She's described as being birthed from the ethereal blue flame, destined to be a guardian of Eldoria. Sounds like she got a powerful mix of her parents' abilities and destiny.
A child of destiny. That's a lot to live up to.
It is. And then there's Nathaniel, Preacher's son, with Seraphina.
2 kids, each born from this powerful love and magic, each carrying the weight of prophecy. How will they grow up? Will they follow their parents' footsteps or forge their own paths?
Those are questions for another deep dive.
I'm ready. Okay, so we've talked about a lot. Eldoria's crazy ecosystem, how magic and prophecy work, and Preacher's wild journey with his very unique family. But I feel like we're just getting started with this world.
Yeah, there's definitely more to uncover. And the sources give us these little hints about Preacher's adventures as a celestial being.
Oh, yeah. His profile mentions that he cruises around Eldoria on his Harley and a biker through and through, even in another dimension. This mix of grit and magic is so cool. But where does this magical motorcycle take him? What does he have to deal with?
Well, the sources talk about how Preacher uses his earthly knowledge and Eldorian powers to get through tough situations. Like, he conjures gasoline for his Harley using the atomic structure he remembers from a high school textbook.
That's awesome. Talk about practical magic. It shows that he's not just using his new powers, he's combining them with his past.
Yeah.
It's like he's constantly learning, which is pretty amazing for someone thrown into a whole new reality.
Totally. It shows how resourceful he is. And his adventures aren't just about getting gas for his bike. He faces some pretty intense stuff, battling forces that threaten the peace he's trying to build in Eldoria.
What kind of enemies are we talking? Mythical creatures? Evil wizards? I need details.
An American biker in Another World Seraphina character profile describes this battle where Preacher and Seraphina fought an orc army in Elvenwood. And it wasn't just a random fight. It was a turning point for them, solidifying their bond and showing off Preacher's strategic mind, not just his magical power.
So he's not just blasting his way through problems. He's thinking strategically, which, coming from his biker background, kind of makes sense. Those guys are all about strategy and brotherhood.
Yeah.
It's like that experience prepared him for being a leader in Eldoria. And he's got this incredible team of wives backing him up, each with her own unique skill set.
Exactly. They complement each other so well, creating this force for good that's changing Eldoria.
It makes you wonder what it'd be like to be part of their family. They're like a cosmic power couple times 9. The dinner conversations, the family vacations, maybe a trip to the quantum realm? Definitely wouldn't be boring.
Haha, no, definitely not. But on a serious note, Preacher's journey is about more than himself. It's about bringing peace and justice to this world and using his powers to protect people.
A classic redemption story, but like on a cosmic level. He's taking his past, the biker gangs, prison, all that, and making something better, not just for himself, but for a whole world. And it reminds us that even in a world with magic and prophecy, our choices define who we are and how we impact the world.
Well said. And that brings us back to that question we talked about before. If prophecy is seeing this now, where everything already exists, does free will even exist? Are we just acting out a script? It's a question people have been wrestling with forever, and Eldoria, with its magic and science, offers a new way to think about it.
Yeah, it's easy to think everything's predetermined and our choices don't matter. But if we think about these now moments, where past, present, and future all exist at once, maybe free will works differently than we think. Maybe it's not about changing a fixed future, but creating ripples across all of time.
Right. Our choices don't change a single timeline. They affect this ever-changing cosmic now. Imagine a still pond. You throw a pebble in, and it makes ripples that spread out, changing the water's surface. Our choices are the pebbles, and the cosmic now is the pond.
That's such a great way to think about it. It means that what we do has a much bigger impact than we realize. Makes you think about the choices you make, huh?
It does, and maybe that's what we can take away from Eldoria, a sense of wonder and possibility, but also a deep responsibility for our choices, not just now, but across all of time.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for taking us through this incredible world.
My pleasure.
And for all of you listening, we hope this exploration of Eldoria sparked some curiosity and gave you something to think about. Until next time, keep those minds open, those imaginations running wild.